Hello, fellow traders. Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you Sunday, April the 30th. The year is 2023. Let's talk trading. Weekly, open and gap. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. And actually, it's April 30th, but as far as Forex goes, it's May 1st. It is the beginning of the month of May. So let's just start the month out right. And remember our risk management so we don't lose any more on any one single trade than we're willing to lose. Now, there's one thing about being willing to lose, and that is you really have to be willing to lose that amount of money. You almost have to think of it like you're in Vegas, where you go up and say, you know what, I'm willing to lose $100 on this trade. And you set your stop loss and position size so, barring unforeseen circumstances, you don't lose more than 100 on the trade. And if it happens, that's it. You're not upset because the market's going to do what the market's going to do. Now, there's a quote by, I think it might be a Sun Tzu quote, that, if you're a good leader, a good military leader, the battle is won before it starts. You don't enter a battle unless you know you're going to win. And that means you've done your preparation, your homework, everything you can so that you win. And I was thinking about how that can be applied to trading. And it's kind of interesting, and we'll probably dive into that later in the week, but maybe you can ponder that thought. It's like, how can you almost guarantee a victory? Let's take a quick look. Let's start off with the monthly. We are almost 2 pips above the monthly open so far, 16 off the high and 3 off the low. And it looks like all the gaps have filled. And so for the week and the day, the open, the high, and the low are all going to be the same. And you can see here, server time is May 1st. My local time is still April 30th. And on the day, it's really interesting. See, we're going to put in the opening range for the week and for the month right here. You can see we're well above the opening range for the year, 452. And for the year, 464 pips above the yearly open, 30 off the yearly high, and 751 off the low. And notice, I think on the final day, we broke the 4 previous months' highs there. And 2 days ago, we had an inside bar. We broke that. And 2 weeks ago, we had an inside bar. We broke that. And 3 months ago, we had an inside bar, and we broke that. It was a couple weeks ago, or was it last week? Well, actually, last week and the week before, we've crisscrossed that 2400. Inside bar action, there's only a few, not that much this week. There's some on the monthly, but other than that, in fact, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 on the weekly. Oh, Freddie, though, likes to trade the euro, 110. There's an inside bar 2 days ago. Only 19 pips range so far, nothing to write home about. Only 3 pairs over 100. So, since there's only 19 pips of range, we know we're not going to be doing any rat zone trades. And it looks like we want to crisscross that weekly open here. We started off, ran straight up, touched it once. So we'll see if we have a breakdown. This is a return bar. So I would look for price to get down around the open at 25.10. I don't know if it's going to be today or this week, but I would look for it. Once again, the rat zones are overlapping, so no rat zone trades. Pivot trading plan says near R1, the bias is short. Near the pivot point, the bias is long. We got that pivot at 25.32. And if it comes all the way down to S1, once again, bias is long. So we haven't hit the daily pivot. We haven't hit the weekly pivot. And the monthly pivot. So let's see, 24.74.6. So 24.75 area there. Weekly pivot 25.12. Daily pivot 25.32. Let's see what gets taken out, if anything. In and out of that upper wick zone. So that's proven once again to be profitable, those wick zone trades. In fact, I'm really thinking about using the wick zones on the monthly and the weekly, the daily, and the H4, and making sure I enter trades on wick zone breaks. Because when you look back, you can just see how profitable they can be. And once again, talking about the battle is won before it starts. You know, a lot of times those market structure traders, I think that's one of the things they're doing. They're saying, here's a place where it's probably going to reverse, and here's a place it's probably going to go to. And that's what they trade. And they look for the big, 2 to 1 or better returns on their trades. Not that I want to become a market structure trader, but I was just doing some price analysis earlier in the day, and I've been looking at this wick zone along with the state changes, and I've really come to the point where it's not wise to trade unless there's been a change of state. Because if you haven't already gotten in the trade and written, higher candles or lower candles, you got to wait for the state to change so okay. And then you figure out, or you watch and determine which way the market's going. And the funny thing is, I said figure out, but there's nothing to figure out. You just have to watch, observe. And I think that's where a lot of traders get into trouble, because they're trying to figure things out. This is the voice of experience talking. Because there are certain things you can figure out, but there's certain things that you can only observe. And, the rhyme, the reason, it doesn't really matter why price does what it does. It just does it. And the thing is, you just have to observe what it's doing and observe, and then, and make an accurate assessment. So, for example, if you were in this upper wick zone, well, what's price doing? It's not breaking out to the upside, it's breaking out to the downside. So it's, the hindsight is always obvious, but it's like, well, it's either going to go up or it's going to go down. And all you have to do is place your bet. So if you were betting it was going to go down, you put your stop loss right above it, and you place your bet. And in fact, I know there's some people like to put the stop loss at the halfway point. If they were going to take this trade, to go, if it goes back more than halfway, you know, that's just a losing trade, because then you could always re-enter at the halfway point if it starts to come back down. Just something to think about. And you can see here prices put up a fight a couple times, but usually on the third or fourth tap, it's over with. And we'll just have to see what happens from here. Weekly range, the past 4 weeks has just hardly been any range at all. Okay. Price peaks very early May and is bearish till mid-May. A bottom typically forms in mid-May. Well, why don't we just wait and see what happens? It was pretty, the seasonality indicator was pretty accurate in April, so let's see if it's going to be accurate in May. And this is just the TRO time indicator I wrote, dollar TRO time, and I added the sessions and the seasonality. But remember, the seasonality, I set it up for the pound because that's what I trade. You have to get the PDF, and it'll tell you the seasonality for the other pairs. And then you have to put in the appropriate verbiage. I guess I could have made some set files for that. Higher, low, lower, high. You can see prices stopping right around this 25.46, which was an R3 resistance, 3 ball there, 526 30 candles ago. And so we'll just have to see how that holds, if it holds. So far, not much range here. We got 22 pips, only 310. I said we had a new 20-year low in April. And I was mentioning something earlier that I was doing some price analysis. And this is just showing the frequency distribution high minus open, and I've got it up twice. Once if the previous candle was green, and once if the previous candle or bar was red. Now what's really interesting here, you would think that if the previous candle was green, you'd have a little bit better percentage of making a couple of pips. But you can see right here, it's actually, if it's red, you have a better. And that's one of the reasons I like to do statistics, just to give me that little edge. But you can see here, it changes at the 3, but then it switches back at 4 pips, 5 pips, then it switches back over to green at 6. So just something to know. And of course, if you can run the open minus low and figure out what those are also. So fellow traders, I don't think there's anything new on this particular screen. I hope you had a fun and safe weekend. And as always, when you sit down to trade, always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. And this is the Rumpled One, over and out.